Commission of the Centerville, Utah Planning Commission. And we have a quorum today. We're starting just a titch late, but that's all right. We have a prayer and thought scheduled, but the individual who usually would be heading that up today is absent, so we'll just proceed with our Pledge of Allegiance. I'll do a quick legislative prayer, and then we will proceed with the items on the agenda. If you'll please all stand with me and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful to come together today to do the public's work here in the public forum. We ask for thy guidance as we do so, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, proceeding to the agenda. Need my glasses. We will have 3 business items today. The first, let's start with the public hearing on the zoning map amendment. Who will be, okay, Ms. Deweese, if you'll take it from here.
So the applicant, Eileen Moss, is requesting a zoning map amendment associated with the subject property. The property is currently zoned agriculture low, and the owner is requesting it to be rezoned to residential. The applicant has plans to subdivide the property. The property needs to be rezoned to meet the minimum acreage. The application is following the due process to make the rezone approved before applying for the subdivision. So let's look at the code requirements. The code requirements to review the rezone. Number 1, is the proposed amendment consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the general plan? And I said that yes, because of goal number 1, it establishes appropriate land use patterns and land use transitions, preserves existing areas in semi-rural residential or current property owners, for the current and property owners. Goal number 3, preserve viability of the area for potential future development. So all of those 3 goals have been met, and then of course in my staff report I went into detail about how they are met. Requirement number 2, is the proposed zoning amendment harmonious with the overall character of the existing development in the vicinity of the subject property? I said yes, the property would match the use standards and applicability to all the regulations in this zone. Requirement number 3, what is the extent to which the proposed amendment may adversely affect the adjacent property? I said minimal to none at all. And then requirement number 4, what is the adequacy of facilities and services intended to serve the subject property? Said, while no subdivision application has been applied for yet, this area already has the utilities available, and staff estimates that the only additional utilities adjustments will need to be for the stubs. Staff recommends to recommend to the City Council to approve the zoning map amendment.
Excellent. Is that it?
That is it.
Okay, any questions for staff before we go to the applicant?
No.
Okay, and who's here for the applicant? Sir, if you'll come to the podium, state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Scott Moss. My address is 1380 East Bear Canyon in Fruit Heights.
Okay, and this is your opportunity to state anything in addition or anything that you object to in the staff report, any position or facts that we should take into consideration as we make this decision.
I appreciate the thoughts that have been shared. I think the only other thing that I'd add is this is a house built by my grandpa 70 years ago. I think that there's some deep personal feelings for me. Like I'd love to have the opportunity to build back there and keep it in the family. So that's kind of personal, but nothing else to add.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so any questions for the applicant?
I don't think so. Well, I guess maybe I do. I always have a question. Just throw it out there. So you want to subdivide that into two, split it into two, and so I walk by this property all of the time. So you want to do the entrance to the property on 2025, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
That's it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I
Yep.
don't really have any questions. Thank you.
Cool.
Do you?
Okay. No, I don't really have any questions. So we'll move to the public hearing phase. You can have a seat if you like.
Thanks.
Is there anybody here to provide additional comment, feedback, or anything on this application? I usually leave it open for 7 seconds. Awkward, uncomfortable. But that's the speed at which our brains sometimes think when under duress. So I'm going to now close the public hearing, given that nobody has appeared, and I assume no comments were received. So given that, I'm then going to take it back to the council for any additional questions to go back to staff or to discuss. I'll just lead out. I feel like this is all very straightforward. Indeed, I would be open to considering other designations here, given as we look at infill property across the city, especially on places like Maine, where you've got some of the other zoning in the area, but at least near the area. I would have thought maybe a medium could work here if the site were slightly bigger, but given all the other considerations, that's just kind of a thought. It has no bearing on my decision today, other than I'm generally in favor of approval. I see no other issues. Any other
So
thoughts?
Sydney, when you're clicking on it and it's going,
Yes,
the green, is that all residential low
that is all agriculture.
or agriculture?
Yep, so this is all agriculture, and then this right here is residential. If you look at the actual use of the properties though, you can tell that they're all single-family residential units.
Right.
So that was really what I based my recommendations on, was the actual use, if you look at the lot sizes, just adjacent to there, and then of course, right across the street, then you go into residential low. So this type of rezone would be a potential Kickstarter for the rest of the properties to be residential low, but of course, we're not supposed to base our rezone based on the potential for a subdivision, but the subdivision that they are looking at doing is a minor subdivision where 2 single-family homes would be. But yeah, that's a good question.
Okay.
Yep,
And with the, if I recall, with agricultural low, you have one house per acre, or is it 2 per?
2 per acre. So that's actually why they needed to rezone.
Because they wanted, because with or residential low, it's 4 per acre, is that right? Okay.
Yeah, and just the lot size itself, so if they were to try to subdivide it, it wouldn't meet the agriculture standards.
Yeah. Right.
It would meet everything besides the acreage that they were wanting to do.
Okay, does anybody want to lead out on a motion?
I will.
Go ahead.
Can I have it in front of me?
Yes. Which one are you wanting to make a motion for?
To approve.
Okay.
Thank you. I hereby make a motion for the Planning Commission to recommend City Council approval of the zoning map amendment for the property located at 2041 North Main Street, known as parcel 07-072-0135, from agricultural low to residential low, zoning with the following findings for actions 1 through 4.
I have a motion.
One through three.
Sorry, I'm rereading that. Okay, with the following findings for actions 1 through 3.
Okay,
I second that.
okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comment or questions on the motion? Seeing none, we'll start down here.
Aye.
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 All right, that passes unanimously. All right, we'll see you back at some point, I assume. Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda. This is the public hearing, the conceptual site plan, HVC commercial. Mr. Eggett? Ms. Deweese, there you go.
So I kind of want to preface this by saying why staff did not give recommendations for this staff report. And just give a brief description of maybe the difference between a conceptual site plan and a final site plan, as well as what phases are within site plans. So a conceptual site plan is what this applicant is initially applying for, and basically it just lays down the foundation to say, basically what it says, conceptually, what are we looking on doing, what are we wanting on doing? And then following that, after approval or from the planning commission, then it goes to the final site plan. Which the final site plan, after they get approval of the final site plan, that's when they can really start to move ground and do building work and apply for building applications. In this particular conceptual site plan, there's also phases. And for phase 1 and phase 2, phase 1 is a more intensive process because the city requires that if you are doing any kind of phase work, you have to make sure that if phase 2 didn't happen, then phase 1 would still be fine and it would be approved by the code. So typically you see phasing happening a lot more intensively in the beginning, and then phase 2 is a lot less intensive, comparatively speaking. So I just wanted to kind of let you guys know that in the staff report there was references to conceptual site plan and final site plan and phase 1 and phase 2, and I just wanted to let you guys know that they weren't interchangeable, they were distinctive items. And then the reason why staff did not give recommendations for this is because we were discussing how to move forward with the idea of the general plan and how that plays into the approval process versus the city code. And after staff's discussion, what we came down to as of just a couple of, well, before the planning commission meeting, is that in the Centerville City Code 121103, there is G.
C.
Oh, good, thank you. Sure.
C, yeah, sorry, keep going. There you go, legal status.
Thank you. Legal status. The general plan shall be considered only as an advisory guide for growth and development of the land except as specifically provided otherwise in this title. We looked in the site plan, approving, like the approvals that are needed, and what we based our approvals off of, and it does not reference the general plan. So just know that this staff report is written in the aspect of, as a planner, I have to make sure that everyone is aware, you guys are aware that the general plan might be contradictory to the city code, and at the same time, the city code is what we have to base our recommendations on, or approvals on, or denials on. Okay, so hopping into that, the applicant, Salt Lake Construction, is seeking approval of the conceptual site plan for a parcel on the west side of town located at 1108 West 850 North. The project has a proposed two-phase development within the intensive, build out in phase 1 and a minor build out in phase 2 by comparison. While only parcel 0600600120 is being developed, parcel 0600601119 is owned by HBC Properties. There is a shared easement between the two properties that will be recorded at the time of final site plan approval. The city requested an additional public utility easement be established on parcel 0600600036 and 0600600037. These utility easements were placed in the future street right-of-way that will connect 850 North and 950 West at the time of parcel development for parcels ending in 0036 and 0037. The city also requested a temporary turnaround for the development. Moving forward. So the question number one, of course, which is put in here for all of our application is the proposed amendment consistent with the current goals, objectives, and policies of the general plan? Once again, with reference knowing that it is just a note and not a decision-making factor. It varies. I said goal number one is to enhance the city business park district. Objective number one is to limit the use of the business park in light manufacturing, office, professional services, and specialty retail uses. And of course, I go into much more detail in our, in the staff report. While the surrounding land use may appear industrial and function and form, the city's long-term vision for the business park is more refined and specific. Approving uses that diverge from the intended mix of light manufacturing, office, and specialty retail could undermine the evolution of this area. Goal number 6, objective 6A, develop or support construction of needed infrastructure with adequate capacities to attract business and companies to this area. I said that this application, they have done a willingness to cooperate with the city on the important public improvements, such as what I stated before about the temporary turnaround, which is very, very important, as well as the easements with the water line being put in. That was extremely important, so we're really appreciative of them working with us on that. Objective 60, to encourage the support of Davis County and local Chamber of Commerce and state entities to actively market and pursue companies to local here at West Centerville neighborhood. I said that the expansion to the new site could be seen as a broader region collaborative and in cooperation through different municipalities as well as different governing bodies. Goal number 7, properly manage wetland resources. Objective 7B is to encourage the support efforts to properly construct and maintain natural streams and drainage channels to preserve function wetland areas. The second phase of the development indicates that the applicant will apply for a channel cleanup permit with Davis County to properly manage the waterway channels to the north of the property. So as long as that happens, they would be following those practices and meeting that goal. Goal number 11 is to develop and support public transit alternatives and transportation. So this is what I really hit on in my staff report and what I keep on alluding to in my staff report on things that I'm not covering right now, which is overall there is the overarching plan that a potential rail line could be put there, and our goal for that currently in the proposed general plan is that that area will be transformed into a commercial area and have the industrial be pushed up to the north. There will also be potential for residential overlays over there as to add more density housing on that side, so then we can preserve the more ruralness and on the east side of Centerville. So while there's nothing indicated in the plans that go against goal number 11, it does kind of promote the bigger question, which is what is Centerville's future plans. So moving past the general plan goals and the objectives and going on to the requirements, which is number 1, or I guess number 2 in the staff report. Is the proposed project harmonious with the overall character and existing development of the vicinity of the subject properties? And I said, yes, the subject property is currently surrounded by office buildings, industrial style buildings, and underdeveloped parcels. And then once again, I just hit on in the staff report that while the current general plan is zoned industrial, the proposed general plan update to be anticipated by the end of this year reclassifies this area as commercial and multifamily residential. Requirement number 3, what is the extent to which the proposed site plan may adversely affect the adjacent properties? I said that the proposed development is expected to have minimal to any adverse effects on the adjacent properties under the current conditions. As stated before, the culinary water line with the easements and the temporary turnaround is really great for this area. I just want to hit again that it's just the impact of the current conditions are minimal, while the proposed may have broader implications on the area's future development. Requirement number 4, what is the adequacy of the facilities and services intended to serve the subject property? All utility providers have verified that they can serve this property with the exception of Dual Creek Irrigation District because they are out of the Dual Creek service area. So I guess that kind of poses the question, what is staff recommendations for the site plan? And I think that this is something that as planning commissioners, y'all should discuss and just keep in mind that while the proposed site plan is consistent with the existing regulations, it is not aligned with the overarching goals for the future land use designated envisioned in the proposed general plan. I just want to reiterate again that this proposal meets the technical requirements, shy of course just being unaligned with the proposed future general plan. So that is the end of my staff report. Thanks for putting up with the lengthy one on this one.
I just want to add one more comment to that. The applicant is aware of this. We've had conversations with Mr. Flanagan representing Salt Lake Construction, so he has heard this conversation as well. So just be aware of that.
Okay. Questions for staff?
Well, of course. Of course. So when I was reading about this, first of all, I didn't realize that they already had a facility out there. I just want to be clear. So they're already storing chemicals out there?
Correct. There's already a building that's operating.
Uh-huh.
to the west of
And
us.
so
Yeah.
were there environmental impact reports done prior to that, since they're so close to the water table? And
I don't know, with it being a pre-existing building, I don't know what the
Does
history
anybody
is on
know?
it.
That's a good question. No.
We obviously haven't researched. I mean, the applicant, you could maybe even
I will
ask the
ask.
applicant.
Yeah, I will ask.
Team.
Okay, so I have a few questions about that. When you were talking about goal 7, the channel cleanup permit, can you expound on that a little bit?
So that is actually something that Kevin, who is our city engineer, has requested. So he oversees that and he relayed that information to me. I can do a follow-up though with Kevin and then I can shoot you an email about what that entails. That might be something that,
And I could weigh in a little bit on it. It's just been not very well maintained. It's a main channel for Barnard Creek, and it hasn't been maintained over the years as well as maybe it needs to be. And so the request is for it to flow better and also for it to deal with the storm water that would come off of this site more appropriately. It needs to be corrected and cleaned up so that the storm water can dump into it more appropriately.
Not because there's
Not-
possibility
Not tied to
of,
business operations.
Right.
It's solely tied to vegetative
Right.
overgrowth.
Okay.
Yeah, and mismanagement. I don't even know if mismanagement's the right word, but lack of management of the channel waterway.
Okay.
That's the way to say it.
and then goal 11, Sydney. I understand that, I've read that a few different times, but I remember this goes back, it could have come back, or it could have gone to prior to you, but do we know what's required for UTA to put in a stop there? Like, do we have to have?
It would need to be first declared in the general plan to even have that kind of a conversation. So we're getting in more of a general plan discussion, so I'm trying to be kind of careful, but
Right.
it's incumbent upon us to have it in the land use master plan and have an adopted general plan that represents it, for us to then have those kind of conversations.
Okay.
We've had an indication from our consultant group who has worked with UTA that they would be interested in this potential.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm wondering, what sort of benefits does it bring to the city to have industrial there? Like tax base or?
Job growth.
Like that?
Yeah, diversity of job opportunity, property tax value, a little bit of sales tax revenue depending on the type of business. That would probably be what I would say, those would be the big three.
yeah.
Yeah.
Compared to residential?
Residential obviously would be a place to live, also property tax. Yeah.
And can you go to Exhibit C, page 2?
Page 2.
There's a paragraph right there, a third article right there. Let's see. Um, okay, so this is just, this information is from county? Davis County?
No, this is the actual general plan.
Our old general.
This is our
plan.
old general plan,
That's-
yeah, it's a state.
Okay.
Current general.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wanna say
current.
old, the current, the currently one, not the newly, reviewed one.
Okay, and can you go to page 5B?
4, 5B.
I'm trying to remember what, I didn't write the whole thing down that I wanted to address. Let's see. Can you go up a little bit, please?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so according to what this says, improve environmental quality through the restoration and all these things that it says, and then prior to what was down at the bottom. Is this something that follows that?
This is the tricky nature, this is why there was the explanation of the code up front and the criteria. The general plan is a guiding document, and if you even look at the date of this goes back to 2009
Right.
when this was adopted.
Right.
So if it came to a competitive nature of what has more precedent or value from a legal perspective, the zoning code would have precedent over the general plan. That doesn't mean that the general plan guidance shouldn't be looked at, but if it came down to a challenge of what we would need to follow, we would defer to the zoning code over the general plan.
Okay, okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay, additional questions for staff?
She went over some of the similar ones that I was thinking of in regards to the UTA thing on the channel. So I don't have any
Vice Chair Patterson brought up the concerns about federal compliance. Do we feel like we have enough analysis there?
I have not done any analysis, again, absent the applicants maybe having more information, we don't have that information currently.
That's fine. All right, let's move forward to the applicant. Who's here to represent the applicant? Your name and your address, sir.
I'm Mike Flanick, president of Salt Lake Construction, 445 West 17th in Ogden. Brought along Wes Stewart with Gardner Engineering, in case any additional questions come up, and Trent Facer, my PM.
Excellent. So, and you've seen the staff report, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Questions, concerns, information you'd like to share?
Do have a couple on the dual ditch. You are accurate in that it's just to keep the grubbage clean, vegetation, everything, but it also, with our meeting with the ditch company, they are gonna pipe it. That is, so maybe by the time phase 2 comes around, we will not need that agreement.
And the ditches, they're just gonna do it at their expense?
They actually asked for an easement, so they could park the excavator, the hoe, and the dump truck next to it to clean it out themselves. So I'm a little confused what Mike came up with that, with putting it on us. We're happy to participate, help, but that is why their easement is so wide on the north side of my client's property, is to park the hoe in the truck, and then that also correlates to the easement back to the main road. So it's actually an L-shaped easement that we have to provide.
Can you pull up a picture of that?
Yeah.
Like, was it Brian?
It's on the subdivision.
Dustin?
plat.
It's on the subdivision plat on that one.
The phase 1 or phase 2, or should I go
You
to?
can zoom in there, it shows it right there.
I still don't know.
Do you wanna, Wes?
Plat's a little cleaner, if you wanna go to the plat.
So for record keeping, you're far enough away from the mic so that it's not gonna be picked up. If you want this on the record, then you'll either have to come to the podium
I
or,
was just trying to assist her, so she can find it. That's a separate, it's not in the concept drawing.
Okay, well, I don't have the plat pulled up. I didn't,
I've got a copy of it here, I can. The mic, if you like. This is a hard copy of the plat, which we were asked to prepare for the development here.
Can you show us?
You have one copy to, or,
Just have one that we pass around, but it's an L shape. So this is the drive entrance, the shared drive approach, and this is the access to the canal, so they have access to this property and also to the adjacent property.
do you have a digital of this, Mr. Reese?
Yes.
yeah,
So the top left corner of this right parcel is what we're talking about, correct? Right here? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct, yeah, this is the exit, and then this is the whole easement where it's shaded, that's the canal easement. It's a pretty big impact on their property, right? Easement, but that's what they requested, and so that's what we're granting to the canal company.
Thank you.
Okay,
Oh, there it
yeah,
is.
there we go.
Yep.
Here's your, so now that we've got that on the screen, here's your paper copy. Thank you, sir.
sorry about that, you guys.
No, that's okay. There are so many exhibits here. Thanks for finding it.
I'm not sure I entirely understand.
So, want me to explain?
Yes, please come
Please.
to the mic, yeah.
So what questions do you have about?
Just walk me through what the outcome is intended to be.
The outcome is there's a shared access easement, which is for the canal company and for the two adjacent properties. They both have access to enter there where that crosshatch tennis shape hatching is. And then the easement granted to the canal company is for the property being developed here for Lot 2 on the north side. That's just the single hatched area that runs along there. That's for the Davis County.
But part of what I'm confused on is temporary versus 20-foot flood control.
Okay, so the temporary is until it is piped. Once it is piped, it would just be a permanent 20-foot easement. Hope that clarifies that. But for now, because it's not piped, they have to be able to get their equipment and machines in there, and that's what requires the extra room. They have that on the other side right now, on the Hogan side of the property. That's also existing right now on the already developed piece of property there.
A little more clear. Okay, and then, what was your name again?
Mike Flanick.
Mike, so Mike, go ahead and pick up, because you were gonna proceed through, I assume, a list of items. That was just the first one.
Yep, another one too we'd like to add is, we've been asked to install storm drain down the road as well to the west in the proposal, so we're happy to do that as well as the water line.
Okay.
Okay, so backstory to this one too, the client now operates the facility there. Some of your questions that came up, are they federal compliance? Is that what you mean with EPA and all that?
Yeah, environmental impact
They are.
reports.
Yep,
How current?
I don't have an answer to that. I can get you a current report if you'd like.
Do you need approvals for this additional Lot 2,
No, we do not.
even though it's in, like, the wetlands area?
Not that we've been informed of yet. Am I correct on that? We have not been informed of any EPA yet
Okay.
at the wetlands.
Well, not just EPA, but I wanted to understand to make sure that I'm understanding.
There's no property in the wetlands. That Parish Creek is not considered wetland.
Oh. Okay.
It's a drainage channel.
So this client's had this property for quite a long time. They've had both pieces of parcel. And they got a contract with the Air Force Base. They would like to expand. And right now what we're looking to do is expand 10,000 square feet in phase one, see if it works out, see how the Air Force contract's gonna go, see if it's feasible, how much they can store, and then if everything works out, they wanna move into the additional 10,000 square feet for 20,000 square feet total. All the infrastructure for phase 2 will be put into phase 1. All the parking compliance, turnarounds. We talked to the fire marshal. All of the fire requirements are going to be ready to pipe into phase 2. The turnaround, as you can see, the temporary turnaround has also been part of the plan to get the fire department apparatus turned around, dead ends, fire trucks, snow plows, et cetera. Client's happy to help with all of that as well. Easements between Hogan and the client for the water line, between it's 850 and 950. All the conversations have been very positive on that, and the city requested that right now the easement we wanted to clear up is just for the water line. I think there were some notes in here that confused Wes and I and wanted to make sure we clarified that it's only a water line easement at this time.
That is a good question.
Because we don't, our understanding was there's no sewer water, curb gutter. We do have some plats, and Hogan does have some plats with elevation to make sure the water line is installed at proper depth.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, where I referenced all utility. Okay, I hear what you're
Yes.
saying. Yes, and you're correct. Yep, I
Yep.
just misspoke in the
And the reason,
report.
also want to clarify too, the reason for the water right now is just due to the fire. We are, too far from the main road.
Yeah.
We do not have enough pressure, so that will continue the pressure, and my client's happy to be involved in that in order to build the building. So without that fire, we cannot continue with this project.
Walk me through that a little bit better, help me understand that.
I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know the fire flow, once it hits the end of the street, we do not have enough pressure in that water system. The city will not allow us to add a pump to that system.
Yeah, that's right.
So we cannot add a pump, we cannot pump this in order to get our flow. So we have to continue because there's much more pressure to the north. So therefore, we're gonna go tap in on the north through Hogan's property, in a shared easement, and then connect into that line, which will help basically build the pressure between the systems.
What kind of approvals have you secured for that?
Actual in writing approvals, none yet. This is all verbal between city, fire marshal, Hogan,
Yeah.
easements granted, all that. None of the actual paperwork, that's actually why we're here as well, is in order
Yeah.
to continue the next step. There is some costs involved, to say the least, between legal, Hogan, us, easements, agreements, and we're talking substantial financial loss to just continue if this project isn't gonna move forward.
Cindy's
So
pulled it up, but there is a water line easement document that has been prepared as well, and that we are evaluating. And also, I will note too, that the water line location matches what would be a future right-of-way location for when 850 north connects to 900 west, as indicated on the general plan currently. So there's a road connection that's always been anticipated to happen at a future date. This water line will be within that right-of-way area at a future date when that right-of-way is established. And Hogan is amenable to that plan.
What's on the screen is what shows that here.
the client would love to keep their business here, continue to grow their business with that building next to it, but we also are aware of the general plan. Do want to help conform to the general plan. We are aware that code and general plan, we want to work together. Therefore, the client is very concerned with pushback concerning the general plan. I mean, if it was your project, you'd feel the same way. We're going to come in and get pushback from general plan. We want to also work with the city and move forward, build their business. We don't want to have to move because unfortunately they're at the point we have to find them a new facility. Therefore, we have warehousing and the main office that's been here for 30 years in 2 different locations, which is very detrimental to the financial stability of that business. So we're trying to keep everything here, but we are aware of the general plan. So they're also concerned that if someone's gonna come in, we got the general plan, we have people complaining, we have complaints all day long, we understand the city has to, do something about it.
The other thing we've talked about with Mr. Flanick is the value of these properties, obviously, with the change in the general plan, the future land use, and maybe future interest in the area were it to happen. Clearly, that changes the property values and the value of this property site going forward. And so we have had offline conversations about that as well, and he has shared that with his client.
Yeah, correct. The other thing too is we also have to disclose what we find out between all of this, all these meetings and everything with the client, plus a potential buyer. So if we do have to pick up and leave, we do have to, tell them about water lines, feasibility, buildability, all that good stuff too, so. Anything else?
Meets all the requirements.
Yeah, it meets all the city's own requirements that we found. Everything we went through, aesthetics, heavy in the aesthetics on this one. This one's, looks really good, as well as financially it costs a lot of money to make that building look that good as well. Inside, we do not know how much this client is gonna take, is also the question right now is, what is mixed use? Can we go in general plan? Can we work something towards the general plan? So can the client still use this? Because I want to make sure we clarify that the client right now may or may not take all 10,000 or 20,000 square. They might take one box, they might take 0 boxes and try to lease them out. So if they can work with the general plan and still use the facility, we would like to know that as well, because the general plan has been moving. I think our first submittal has been January. So now I have a client trying to move through and conform with the city and the general plan, and we're still just kind of this moving target, where if any of us had a chunk of land like that, we'd want to develop it.
Tell me how you would reconcile the tension there.
What's that, sorry?
How would you reconcile the tension between the general plan and the current proposed site conceptual plan?
To be honest, I'm not currently up on the general plan, so I can't really answer that. There's a lot of ways to do it. Whether this is just an income property for them, they can outside warehouse, they can help, with the financial burden. Or we can also put in, places that help the general plan a little more. They're completely open to, any sort of business that can go in there that can help with the general plan.
Just if I can comment on the general plan, it's my opinion that this is an administrative decision, a site plan, and in reviewing the site plan approval criteria, it doesn't have anything about the general plan. So in my opinion, the general plan in this situation is advisory, and I believe they have a vested right to pursue the site plan as long as it meets our site plan ordinance.
Appreciate that, and just so you know too, this is, definitely not a preliminary site plan as well. Like, we are ready to basically turn this in tomorrow, if it passes, so. This is definitely not preliminary with everything we've been doing with, in regard to all the background agreements we've had drawn up, water line talks and everything. This is pretty much ready to go.
Just to clarify that comment, Mr. Flanagan, for the planning commission's sake, what you're saying is, you feel like, knowing that there's gonna be a second round, a final site plan submittal that will come back to the planning commission, you feel like this is already at or close to that final site plan?
Very close, yes.
Position as well?
Correct, that's what we're saying, very close.
Application to the planning commission. Okay.
This is, far enough away from a
Yeah, this
napkin,
shows
I
a
guess.
lot more
This
than
is-
our conceptual site plan ordinance requires.
Mhm,
So you
yes.
want to just focus on what the ordinance requires and the standard of approval.
Thank you.
I have questions for you.
Yes,
So you had mentioned, so the client already owns the property,
Yes.
correct? And that you said there are other building options. You
Yes.
said other building options. Can you tell me what that means?
basically what it means is the client is open to building the facility into a flex space if the chemical business is not gonna be allowed to go in there and work with the general plan.
Okay, a flex space, can you tell me, for example, like, what that means?
Let's say the dance, maybe a dance studio, stuff like that, sports complexes, pickleball.
HVAC servicing, yeah. you see
Oh,
that.
so
I mean,
other
there's a bunch
approved.
of-
Anything permitted in the zone.
Okay,
Kind of,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
Anything like that.
Just like it says flexible business usage or light industrial type usage, is what you typically see in these.
Okay, okay.
What
And-
modifications to your plans would have to be made in order to accommodate that?
As far as we know, none. Basically, the biggest one when you start modifying, because we have all sewer, we have all future, we have all utilities. Fire system is basically what trumps uses. And since it's already sprinkled, most uses, in my opinion, are already ready to go.
Sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I have lots of questions. Just hop in at any time. So you said you don't want the client to leave completely, that they've outgrown their space. So for clarification for me, they have a location in Centerville that's an office, and they have one that's a warehouse? Is-
It's all one right now.
It's the same.
So the office is in the warehouse, in the facility to the west. Yep, so they're warehousing everything right now, and they actually have storage outside as well, undercover.
What are they storing?
I don't have the facts on what they're storing, but they are storing chemicals.
Toxic chemicals?
Yes. and benign chemicals, food grade, yeah,
That they use up at Hill,
yes.
right?
Well, they use all, that's private, food, all industries, but the one that drove the expansion is the Hill contract, yes.
Is the Hill contract?
They have, don't quote me, but I want to say they have to have it on-site within 72 hours.
What does that mean?
That product, say you order a drum of something, it
Uh-huh.
has to be on Hill Air Force Base within 72 hours.
Oh, from the time of being ordered?
So if
Okay.
we go into satellite location, we got to have basically trucks ready.
Okay,
You know, say it's a Sunday, they got to call people in, load up the trucks, and fly to Hill. So that's
Okay.
why we love the proximity as well.
right. And you said that chemicals are being stored inside and outside?
Yes. The outside does have containment areas. Fire department's well aware, sprinkler systems, containment, all of it.
You're to clarify your comment there, what you're saying is the fire checks that they do annually, the fire marshal and the fire inspections, they clear it every year.
They clear it every year, plus we've had meetings at this facility to expand that facility, as well as this facility, yes, they're fully aware.
Okay. And so I'm going to go back to what I kind of brought up before, and you said you don't know, nobody knows. Like any environmental impact reports. I'm very concerned because it is so close to the waterfowl management area. It is so close to the lake. If there's any leakage, there's seepage and it goes right in.
Understood.
To all the water sources. So I'm just wondering what is provided, like, have we been told the toxicity of items and where are the reports and what is current and what can we know?
So what I know is that the city's fully aware of what chemicals are there, the fire marshal is fully aware of what is there. Nothing is allowed to discharge that facility without being tested, including the storm drains. All the water has to be tested before it's discharged. Everything is plugged.
What does that mean?
Basically, say there's a storm drain in a parking lot and there's a rain event, that rain cannot leave that facility until it's tested for chemicals. So everything is fully contained in that area. I think the business has been there over 30 years, but it is 100% contained. Outside has a containment area like a swimming pool, for instance, and then they do have to test the water. So whether it's a rain event, if they want anything to come out of that parking lot, they have to test it first.
Okay. So they just want to increase because they've outgrown it and they want to be able to store more
That's correct.
chemicals there. Okay.
Yep.
And then one last thing, you had talked about the value of the property. Mr. Eggett brought it up, and then you talked about disclosing the value of the property. I guess I'm a little confused on that.
Let's just say depending on what goes in, there's potential for it to gain value, lose value, whatever we put here. So I'd like to have my client have all of their answers. If we use this facility and you grow, you know, does that bring you $1? If we sell the land and you move somewhere else, does that bring you $2? So I like to give my clients all the information they can. You know, general plan, what's going on in the future, what their future thoughts are, how much is the land worth now, how much is it worth once it's done, you know, where's this business going? The kid's gonna get it, or are you just gonna sell out to some conglomerate? So I've had all these conversations with the client at their dinner table, trying to guide the client on what to do if it was any of us or me on what to do with this land.
Right.
Knowing that the general plan's coming and knowing that their business is definitely not one that's generally welcomed with open arms.
Right. Well, thank you for answering my questions. I have a lot, this is new information. It may have been here for 30 years, but it's new to me.
Okay, understood?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, additional questions from this end?
Did I cover it?
You did a great job. I'm just looking at their Google Maps of this High Valley Chemical. I've never driven by this location before. It's right down there. No questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Now we will move to the next phase, which is the public hearing. I'll open it for the public hearing for any comment from anybody who'd like to submit. Any comments from online?
No.
Okay. I will close, nobody appearing, I will close the public phase of the hearing. And then we'll move back to either staff or applicant questions for follow-up. So, and this could go to either legal or planning. My understanding in having that waterway back there poses some risks. Has the site plan conceptually addressed with all the concerns?
Yeah, we've had the stormwater management team with the Public Works Department sit in all these meetings, through the Public Works Deputy Director as well as the stormwater program manager for the city. They've been involved in it, and then obviously our Public Works Director has been involved, and so has our city engineer. And they're all comfortable to this point with the position of the conceptual site plan relative to that waterway.
Okay. All right. All right, any other further questions from the commission? All right, I will bring it to the commission for discussion and or a motion. Anybody want out?
Okay, sure, I'll go again. I had my questions answered, I understand more, but honestly speaking, and I don't care, you know, it's been here 30 years and I'm just finding out about it, I'm not comfortable with chemicals so close to the water, and I really do want to see reports. I want to see them with my own eyes. I want to know what's going on. I want to know when they were done, and I want to know what is out there. Is it being opened and closed? Is it coming in just in barrels that never gets opened? I suppose I should have asked that to the client. But, you know, is there a chance for toxic waste, essentially? And then, so that's one concern that I have. The second concern is in regards to the general plan. If we, and I know what you said, Lisa, I'm not disregarding that, but I'm just thinking about having a general plan, right? And thinking about having increased growth out there and residential and kiddos and people, you know, coming and going off of the stop and wanting to have living growth out there. So then that concerns me too, but I don't think that that's in, for me personally speaking, I don't think that's best interest for that growth of the plan. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. So some thoughts there. Gary?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I feel the same way, and I don't, I guess I don't understand enough about the business and what the chemicals are, and the changes in the general plan and where we're supposed to, what our obligation is, I guess, as a planning commission with regard to following the general plan. I guess I understand what you're saying, that we don't have any obligation we're supposed to
Or
follow the
authority.
code.
I mean, if you look
Right.
at the site plan ordinance, remember, it's an administrative decision. So, yeah, I think it would be
Right.
very difficult to deny this or table it based upon compliance with the general plan. That's my opinion.
Well, and that's the way I'm looking at it. And obviously, in the general plan, I guess it's kind of it's fluid, right? We're
Well, it's
changing it.
not fluid right now. We have a general plan in place.
Okay.
This application needs to be reviewed in accordance with the existing general plan.
Right,
That's the way
Okay.
we do vested rights.
yeah.
Staff is just indicating to them that
There is a change.
changing our general plan, you might want to think about this and look at where we're going, but we have no legal authority to hold this applicant to a general plan draft.
Yeah, proposed general plan.
Exactly, because
That makes
there's
sense.
no telling if or when that will be approved.
Right.
Okay.
And even if approved, they have submitted a complete application. So if we changed our general plan tomorrow, we still have to review it under today's general plan. Again, the concept of vested rights. When you file your application, you are only subject to the rules in place at the time you file the completed application.
That makes sense.
And, yeah, so that we can't, you know, if somebody comes in and we realize, oh my gosh, we should change our ordinance, they get through the gates. The way I always put it, they get through the gates and then we can fix our ordinances.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you can't fix your ordinances and, you
And
know,
tell
make them
yeah,
comply with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Second of all, on the chemical issue, I think you could approve the conceptual plan and make it a condition, but I have concerns about who is the regulatory authority on that. Again, on concept plan, I don't believe our ordinance talks about requiring this. Now, we could look at, you know, is there some catch-all that we could say, okay, now we want these reports, but I think staff would have to do some research to find out who is the regulatory authority, or if you're just saying you want the reports that they're referring to that they already have, that would be fine, like, if that's what you're suggesting. But if you want to go up the chain to see if they are complying with their chemicals, you know, we might be talking federal regulations, which is federal authority. And then is there anything in the state, you know, that would do it? But with our ordinances, we generally, our authority is we have wellhead protection zones that you have to be careful of, you know, or other things. But, I mean, I'm just trying to think, even if they had some illegal chemical activity, would that be for Centerville to regulate? I don't know.
Would that be a state thing that, or do we fall under
Well,
the
like,
state
yeah, maybe
thing?
we could call the state
It could be-
Division
it
of
could be-
Water
yeah,
Quality,
state,
or-
could be the county, could be the city, it could be all three in some kind of
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
effort too.
Yeah.
Eyes and ears, right?
I think that'd be a worthwhile thing to know before you proceed, is just what approvals they've received in regards to the handling of the chemicals. I mean, as was stated, we see they've existed in Centerville for quite some time, and I haven't seen on Channel 13 News, chemical warehouse in Centerville violates again.
And then-
It doesn't ring any bells. I didn't even know they existed until just, this week.
Right, right.
And I don't recall, maybe Mike, you will, but if that is a stream channel maintained by Davis County, any construction within 100 feet has to get a Davis County permit.
Yeah.
So I think, is this one subject to that?
Yeah, and that's what
So
the
Davis
city
County has to
evidenced.
weigh in
Yeah.
too, like, hey,
Yeah.
you're too close to our, stream channel or not. And
Yeah, that's why I
so
brought that up.
if Davis County's already approved their construction, then they're okay with it that close to.
Now, is that at final or is that at conceptual, that they have to get that? Because I have a feeling that's at final.
Right, yes.
be a
I'm just
final.
saying in terms of, oversight, that will require Davis County to look at this as
The
well.
regulatory nature of our discussion, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anyway, so yes, if you want to ask for documents they already have, but if you want new reports, we probably have to make sure that we have the authority to require new environmental reports, and/or if we would be the regulatory arm, to add conditions. So let's say, we find out something, but, anyway, so I don't know which direction you're going, if you're just asking for the reports they already have.
Well, yes, and? Did you want to finish? Or were you
No,
done?
yeah, yes.
Okay, so yeah, I'd like to know what they have already, but then to your point, when you brought up final and conceptual, so that has to happen with final, right? And it hasn't happened with conceptual. Is that correct? Am I understanding
We're
that
just talking
correctly?
about the permit from Davis County.
Correct.
Will be required with final.
Will be required, but has not.
Because it's conceptual stuff.
They've started that conversation because our Public Works Department engineer have asked them to have that conversation with Davis County. And you heard the evidence that they have, in fact, conversed with Davis County, right? So that conversation has already happened. It's just the final approval, I guess, from Davis County would be an element of that final site plan submittal, indicating some kind of indication from Davis County that they've accepted the stream channel improvement permit.
And with that, then they would have the knowledge of what is being stored there, or,
I don't know if that's, I don't know, I guess we can't speak for Davis County and what they are or aren't looking at as far as the scope of their, study or their evaluation of their permit. But we would have to trust that within the auspices of the rights of Davis County's maintenance of that channel, that they would be expected to be compliant with what Davis County requires to keep that clean and safe as far as a drainage waterway. So again, long story short, I guess what I am saying is Davis County won't let what's called illicit discharge come off their site. They have to show how they'll maintain and clean and keep their water from being illicit or being polluted in order for Davis County to feel comfortable with whatever needs to happen to alter or improve that waterway.
Thank you.
So here are my thoughts. I'm looking in CZC. You know, it's such an awkward acronym.
CCC?
City, CZC.
It's so easy.
I know.
CCC.
CZC.
Can we all look at that?
You know, 1221-110, like
Oh.
the site plan review standards, conceptual site plan sub D. We have adequate evidence in front of us based off of staff recommendations and also what's been presented, at least from my perception, that they've met all of the applicable information necessary for conceptual. We're circling around this idea of whether or not they're in compliance with other regulations and whether or not we have authority to ask that. I think we do. So going down into final site plan approval, and then looking down in sub 2, sub F, evidence of compliance with applicable federal, state, and local laws and regulations if requested by the zoning administrator. So, valid concerns, I agree, valid concerns. Legitimate concerns at this stage, yes, legitimate, but whether or not it's enough to table, I'm not sure I'm persuaded yet. But it's at least really fair warning to the applicant that come final, we're gonna be having sharper questions and gonna need more evidence other than we've talked and we think we've done it. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Okay. So that's my position, at least my thoughts
Agreed.
right now.
We'll get that list going of what's in there.
Yep, I think that's fair. So, but to Vice Chair's point, I echo those concerns. I'm just not entirely sure that we have the basis to make those requirements and tabling it now. For me, if they're compliant with CZC 1221-110 sub D, we administratively approve with the added conditions that they ensure that they're in compliance when they bring it back into final, that they're in compliance with all of the final. And we've identified for the applicant what we're going to be requiring at final. And that includes things that you've mentioned. So anyways, those are my thoughts. I'm not saying that we need to do that. Those are just my thoughts right now. So,
I appreciate that.
Sean?
I'm inclined to approve it. I don't, similar to what you've talked about in regards to the, I mean, yes, on the conceptual site plan, I think they've seemingly met what we're seeing in the CZZ, whatever. But when it comes down to the final site plan, sharper questions, I think are correct. And by that time, I would assume after conversation between us and the staff, they would probably provide that, and then we wouldn't have this long a discussion. It'll be a 20-second, him stand up and present it and done.
Okay, so we've all had a chance to comment. Next second round, or shall we move to a motion?
I don't think I have any other questions. I hear what Lisa's saying, you know, from a legal point of view. And, you know, we have to do what's legal. And we have to do what's right. I'm still a little concerned about, the usage of the property with what we want it to be for our growth. We don't have much growth opportunity in the city, and I'm not basing it on that, I'm just merely stating that for what we want it to be, and what the citizens kind of want it to be, it doesn't match up.
We
So I
also
have-
talked about it being a possible flex space as well, in case the.
Yeah, and flex space.
So we could put in our pickleball
is-
place if we need to.
You go, Sean. Dude, you got 10 courts coming up.
Count
10. 10.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to motions. I'll entertain a motion from anybody.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I hereby make make a motion for the planning commission to approve the conceptual site plan for the property located at approximately 1108 West, 850 North, known as parcel 06-006-0120, subject to the following conditions of approval. 1 through 2 with the following findings for actions 1 through 3.
1 through 2.
Sorry,
through-
yeah,
Two, sorry, I see-
two on
I see
additions
that.
is just a catch-all,
I
and
see
3
that,
is
I
a
see that.
planning catch-all.
With the following findings for actions 1 through 2.
I'll ask you a question about that. So, I think final site plan standards are far more rigorous when I read them.
Yeah.
So, I'm fine with this, right? I don't think we need to add a condition that they comply with final site plan conditions, because that's just implicit in the code.
Right.
And I think our discussion makes clear to the applicant our concerns. I just want to highlight that as I understand your motion, what we're basically saying is that in addition to the conceptual requirements as identified by the code, we also want to make sure that outstanding comments and concerns that have been identified by staff are also met before we even arrive at final.
Right, that's the representation of that.
That's my understanding.
You're right, that's what's trying to be represented there.
Okay.
That's correct.
And then come final, we will then revisit it under the final standard, which is rigorous.
Correct.
Got it. I'll second. Any further discussion or amendments on the motion? Okay, I'll start over here.
Aye. Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Yep. Moving on to item number 3 on the agenda. This is the zoning code amendments, discussion only for body art facilities.
Here we are again.
I know.
Yay.
So,
Love it, though.
third round.
This building it could be a pickleball place or a body art facility.
There you go. That's what we need.
We need a bakery.
So, on this one, I followed the direction of the planning commission in our last meeting on the 23rd. And I provided an attempt at a mashup of Layton and Centerville City Code. And now I will say I didn't run this through Lisa, so Lisa, feel free to amend it. It won't hurt my feelings if we need to change stuff, but Cindy, will you click on, permanent cosmetics, that one, yep. So I've shown our code, I've shown Layton's code, and I've done a mishmash, and then I've taken in some of Lisa's language even on her ordinance document. At the very beginning, it should say means. I did notice that typo today as I was reviewing, like, an S. But anyway, what you'll see language, it sounded like we liked Layton's code. So the majority, if not all of Layton's code in some format or another is found therein. There's a little bit of a spiritual succession of Centerville's, but not a whole lot, because there's a lot of duplication of terminology between the two. And if Layton says it more concisely and more clearly, I deferred to Layton over ours for the sake of simplicity. I also followed what Lisa had blotted out on the ordinance document, and so I didn't include any of that stuff. And then the statement at the very end of the ordinance proposal language where it said permit cosmetics does not include any medical procedure, et cetera, I've added that into the bottom of that paragraph, right, to make that more clear. So that's the genesis of that language. And then, so if you'll just go to the table of uses, the next one. Then on here is I did add, instead of it just saying C question mark, I put C or P question mark to make it a little more clear that they're both on the table. So we can have that discussion. And then if you'll roll down, Sydney, to the next one, and then you'll see permanent cosmetics. The discussion was to match personal care services, which I've done.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So, I feel like staff has addressed or brought forward what we were asked to do by the planning commission at our last meeting. And I guess at this point that we would be seeking direction if we feel like, I guess, following whatever discussion would like to happen, direction if you feel like it would be ready to then schedule it for a potential public hearing for the May 28th or even the June 11th meeting, and figure out how we want to proceed from there with whatever direction in tightening and finalizing whatever language we present.
Right.
So that's where we are at.
Sydney, can you pull up Bountiful's verbiage? I'm sorry, I didn't write a page on this.
We're gonna go to body art, yeah?
I think
Yeah, I think
I can't remember if Bountiful has body
No,
art
I
or
think
just
it's
tattoo.
tattoo.
Yeah, they might just
Oh, is
have
it?
tattoo. Yeah, I think yeah.
I know, I remember before we talked with Lisa about, we don't want to get too detailed, because then we could miss something, right? We want to be general and specific enough, but not so specific that we're, you know, putting
Right.
ourselves in a corner.
It's really, really simple.
Let's see,
Yeah.
hold on. Is this the one that says, no, this isn't the one. There's something else from Bountiful that uses the term scar camouflage, not allowing. Or wait, maybe it's allowing, but it was from Bountiful. I'm sorry, I didn't write down
It
the
was
reference
scarification.
point.
They have scarification as one of the terminology of an allowance with tattoo.
Which we do not allow.
Yeah.
In our draft, we're saying no, you can't- because
Oh,
the county doesn't allow it.
You're talking about, there it is. It's the permanent makeup and cosmetics.
There we go, 227. So, eyebrow shaping, microblading, eyeliner, lip.
Oh,
liner.
scar camouflage.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, I
scar
see.
camouflage, scalp pigmentation, scar camouflage, et cetera. Because I know that that's a real thing. People do that to cover some, you know, they were in an accident or something, and that's important. So I was just wondering if that's something that we might want to consider adding.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
That seems like a legit request.
sure.
And to darken the scar or lighten the scar to make it better match adjacent
I
skin.
think it could be like for like a tanning vet, to like get permanent tanning.
Who are you? Mr. Pickleball,
I'm
who
going
are
on a cruise
you?
next week, guys. I need to think of these things. I'm
Wait, you're doing what next week?
going to the Bahamas next week.
Oh, fun for you.
We got 10-year
Fun
anniversary.
for you.
Is that your, what other questions do you have?
Sorry, I digress.
Yeah.
Well, these were cryptic to me now because I wrote them yesterday when I spent about 5 hours honestly going through everything. Under tattoo establishment, maybe that's under our existing code. I had a question about, oh, yeah, can you go to our code, please? I think it's under our code. For tattoo establishment? It just seemed like there was a question to me how it was written. It would almost seem contradictory.
It's going to be struck.
Everything that is existing is going to be null and void. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, they were overwriting it.
There's a brand new definition of body art in the ordinance itself.
Right, okay. But let's see, tattoo.
Is this the language you're talking about?
Tattooing technique, no.
Okay.
Mine is starting with tattooing, at tattooing technique. No, I'm
I
trying
don't
to
think
see
they
where
have
that
that in
came
our
from.
code, a tattooing technique.
Under tattoo establishment, but maybe, let me read this, any location, cutting for the purpose. Oh, yeah, okay, so this is gonna go bye-bye and be null and void, right? Okay, because this doesn't include, this is kind of a crossover thing for microblading, because microblading does cut, right? Okay, so we're gonna ignore that. I do like the new language, I think that we should add the scar camouflage,
I'm working on it right now.
okay?
In there.
And I did have one more question in Layton Code on page 15.
City definitions or city,
Probably definitions.
you think so?
I don't know, it's just page 15 that starts with a mark, design, words. Oh, wait, let's see, page 15.
Right there, tattooing, yeah, that's what it's gonna be.
Starts with a mark.
Yeah,
design,
it's
word.
tattoo.
Okay, there we go.
It's the definition.
Create a mark, design words, branding, certification. Body art placed on the skin. Information technique deposits code for relevant. Okay, let me reread this, sorry. Okay, so they're, in this one, they're defining the tattoo as anything that is a mark, design, words, body art placed on the skin. Okay, so with that being said, Sid, will you go back and pull up our new verbiage, please?
So the ordinance.
What Mike came up with?
Oh, you want that one?
Well,
Mine was permanent cosmetics, so if we're talking about body art, it would be Lisa's definition of body art that she suggested. But if we're talking about permanent cosmetics.
Okay, hold on, let me reread this. Meaning permanent. Into and under the skin. Okay, that's fine. So yes, go to the other one then, the tattoo.
Mike, do you
body
know what
art
that
or
one
Yeah,
is?
go to ordinance 2025-04 where you were at, one document up, that one.
Yeah.
And then just go up to tattoo, or body art, excuse me. Go up, there you go.
Special practices or instructs body person or tattooing. Permanent person, body art facility shall not include any of the following activities which are especially prohibited. Branding, scarification, or any practices that are considered medical procedures by a state medical board. No. I don't know. I can't remember. How many cousins was it? Okay. Okay, basically, I liked everything that was in there. I think that we're in a good place.
I'll echo that. The scar camouflage seems like an excellent addition to permanent cosmetics. My one question and/or position is going to be on whether it's conditional or permitted.
Just gonna go there next. Where do we
Yeah.
want to go with those
Yep.
discussions?
Okay.
In the universe of Mason Care, it's permitted, because by the time you bring a tattooing establishment through all of the rigor that's going to be necessary to get it to this position, and then ask what are the detrimental quote-unquote impacts associated with a tattoo parlor, the second you start unpacking that, people are going to think, oh, we're going to now be talking about whether or not tattooing is a good idea. And that is completely the inappropriate framework to be analyzing the detrimental impact of a tattoo parlor. I would be thinking of things like, are they going to be, spilling ink down the drain as a detrimental impact, or are they going to be, I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
I struggle with what a quote-unquote legitimate detrimental impact of a tattoo parlor would be if it were conditional use. And so therefore, I look at this and I think, okay, permitted use it is.
So permitted use it is in particular areas,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Where-
Yeah,
Right?
right.
And then,
IH or IVH.
and then also hours. And-
Fair enough, but they would be subject to the same business hours that everybody else would be in that zone. The same business hours and, lighting requirements.
Noise ordinance.
Noise ordinance and,
Well, we talked about this before, like if it, for an example, if it were behind Maverick across the freeway, right? Maverick's open 24/7. Do we want a business that's open 24/7 there? No? Not really. I mean, so if it's permitted and they wanted to go right there, then would they be allowed to be open 24/7?
I don't know that we have strict codes on hours of operation for businesses. I haven't seen that. You know anything like that, Lisa? I can't think of any codes that I've seen since I've been here.
And if it's-
We have a noise, so like, basically the business hours is not regulated, so I do the business permits. Business hours are typically not regulated, it's just a noise ordinance, and that's based on like, the city code, and then police actually,
11 to 7, I think, right?
yes. I don't know about that, I'll have to
7,
double
11 to
check.
6. It's something, it's 11 to 6 or 11 to 7.
But so, business hours is not something that the city code specifically calls out for me to check for any kind of businesses.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the.
So that is something that if that is a concern, that is something to bring up.
And if it was allowed all the time, like Mason said, what's my word? I'm forgetting. What's my word?
Permitted.
Permitted. If it's permitted, then they can do whatever with the hours. If it's conditional,
yeah.
then we can say Okay, well, we need to close it down at 11 or 10 or
As
whatever.
long as you could articulate again.
Why?
Reasons for the conditions. to
Reasons
be-
for.
Yeah.
So that's where I come from for conditional. Okay. I don't have any more questions.
Is it close enough to schedule this for a public hearing next time? An action?
The verbiage on it, I think so. I mean, for me.
Because I think you can still have that debate, like, let's see if there's a public hearing. You know, tonight you don't have to
Decide.
necessarily, yeah, I think
Yeah,
you
right.
could have the public hearing, hear what the public has to say, and then make that decision as part of your motion, whether it should be permitted or
Because,
conditional.
yeah, if I get that direction, then what I will do is I would advertise for that public hearing by no later than this Friday. So if
Where,
you're that
where are
way.
you advertising?
Just the normal ways we do, city website, state website.
Is it, there's not a location, so it's not like you could post it.
We post it here at City Hall, down at the Public Works Building as well. So typical places for any time we're doing code amendment language. Yeah.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I think
Yeah.
we're there.
Yep.
I think so.
I'm suggesting that we put scar camouflage
Yes.
in the first line near the end, right after lash enhancement is where I have inserted it as I was quickly doing it. Does that seem appropriate? Beauty marks, hair imitation, lash enhancement, scar camouflage, or other medical purposes.
I agree.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.
I was trying to find the Davis County body art regulation. We had that PDF at one point. Oh, I found it.
So while you're looking, I will bring up one point. In our current code, like on page 4, I just want to bring up something that's slightly amusing to me. Where is it, page 4?
Our current code, so I'm.
mean
Okay, maybe it's just on page 4 of whatever.
Very last page.
Page 4 of something. Anyway, it has on there, old age disease. And I'm like, wait,
Oh,
what?
that's,
Old age disease? Is old age actually a disease? Or should it be old age, comma,
it's
Disease,
the existing
comma.
language of permanent cosmetics.
boo? It is
That's
so
what it is.
bad.
But that's been.
Oh,
Look
yeah,
at
we're
that.
taking that out.
Consequence of
Been-
old
yeah,
age,
reversed.
how is that? It's not actually a disease.
According to my 13-year-old, it is.
My 26-year-old, you're so old.
I suffer from old age disease.
I've got it, yeah, we will, I've got it for sure.
I was just like, wait, is that, are we
that-
missing a comma?
Oh, yeah.
Is that
Is
actually,
that similar to like when you
Taking
become a
that
dad,
out.
you have
Yeah,
to
that's-
tell dad jokes and
that's
stuff?
so bad.
Yeah,
Really bad.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't like it either.
It's
Yeah, I'm like,
gone.
okay, wait, I've read this twice now.
It'll be gone.
It's gotta go.
Now,
Yeah. old
So
age
circling
disease.
back, yeah, let's bring it as an action item. If you'll bring it as conditional use, we'll, as a draft,
Yeah,
rather
that's how
than,
you'd like it to
rather
present.
than a question.
Okay,
and
I'll take
we'll
a-
vote on it.
I'll just put Cs in that grid then and keep the grid the other way it is.
Yep.
I'll keep it in red to highlight what's being
I would,
amended.
unless, I'd open this up to my co-commissioners. I don't think that we need to allow for a conditional or permitted in PDO. In CVH, I would just say, let's go with industrial and call it good.
Keep it to IH and IVH and just do N and the other one, okay.
That's my suggestion, but I'm open to ideas. We can debate it next time.
Is that-
Would you mind pulling up the map, Ms. Deweese,
That
of
would be
the
helpful, because you
PDO?
said
Yeah.
the C what?
Yeah,
CVH PDO for
It's
the,
just legacy gateway
Yeah.
is what we're talking about, legacy gateway overlay.
so,
What
when,
is CVH?
what we're considering is all the gray areas, basically.
Click on CDAs, Sydney, and it will, in the corner, and it'll turn on that overlay.
Oh, CDAs.
There you go, the blue, it's
Oh,
that blue outline area.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
And the
so,
red and the blue.
so as I see it, on the table of uses, if we put it in as a permitted or conditional uses, we can go into all the gray areas.
Right.
But the question that we had been batting around was, well, what about the PDO area over there where it's CVH mostly? But could we also put it in as a condition in that area? And I just thought, well, maybe we could, and it's on the argument that it's sort of consistent with the rest of the industrial zone that's around it. Me personally, I look at that and I'm like, I don't want to do anything more bespoke than it is already and just call it good as not permitted in that area.
As not permitted in what?
The red.
The
PDO.
red / blue PDO, to not get in and muck it around any more than just say, put it in the industrial H, put it in the industrial IVH,
I agree with that.
and then not worry about the PDO overlay.
Yeah, I was confused by your, sorry. I don't know all the acronyms
Yeah.
and the lingo.
What is,
I
sorry,
just
what is
don't.
the CDA?
The CVH is the maroon.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
the
commercial,
PDO
commercial very high CDH, PDO is plan development overlay. So the plan development overlay has a specialized agreement with that area that's in red.
Okay.
As crosshatched.
Okay.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it has a unique land use feature to it that other areas of the city don't have.
And that we've, as I understand it, one of the major reasons is in order to make sure we can make it economically viable.
Yeah.
And I don't see us as, tattoo parlors being a make or break here. I don't think we need to muck around. That's just my position. So I'm saying, like, when you bring it back, put it in as a C on IH and IVH, and we can debate the merits then.
Is that the consensus of the planning commission?
I would agree.
Okay, sure.
Okay. With that other language. And I'm fine on however rapid staff you feel want to bring it back.
I feel like,
2 weeks.
there's some legal direction that sooner than later would be better.
Okay,
Oh,
Am I correct in that, Lisa? Yeah.
okay. Whenever you guys want, 2 weeks if you want.
Yeah, I'll work on that this Friday then and get the language all set up the way that I've been directed in this discussion.
Okay?
oh, and good job on that, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice work.
You had a lot of input. And I think you did a great job.
Yeah, good balancing. Closing that, moving on to the Community Development Director's report. Well, hold on, was this this was not a public hearing.
It's just discussion.
Yeah. Community Development Director's report, please.
Not a whole lot, just like you said, we will now have this item at the next meeting. Ms. Deweese will not be there joining us. She's actually going to be enjoying her special week.
Yes, yes.
So,
I'm gonna be in California hiking, so it'll be awesome, yeah.
So we'll have our city recorder Jennifer Robinson helping us out that night. And then we will likely have another conceptual site plan on our June 11th meeting for another property. So, and I'll be bringing that forward at that point, so. That's really all I have. The only other thing I maybe would note, if you're curious about council, obviously we are still working through budgetary items, so keep track of the city agendas if you're curious about kind of what's coming out. And obviously, we would have to have that city budget approved by June at a state deadline, so that's what it's moving.
yeah, wow.
So, there you go, that's all I have to report.
Okay. Moving forward, minutes from the previous meeting. Does anybody have any questions or concerns about those minutes?
I didn't see any mistakes.
Good to me.
Okay, I'll accept a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second the motion.
Yeah.
I second the motion even though I wasn't here then, I guess. That's the question.
But did you read
I
it?
can second it.
I have no qualms.
Didn't even finish, but I accept the motion. I'm making a motion to accept the minutes
As
they are currently, whatever,
Yes.
printed right there as I currently read it from Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025.
I have a motion to accept the minutes as unamended. Who's seconding? No?
I'll second it.
That second has
Gary.
been withdrawn. It's now Mr. Woodard who's going to second it. All of those in favor say aye. I will accept the motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay, double second.
Double second rule.
We'll award that one to Gary since
You got a double second?
I get,
you're carrying a lot of water today.
yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.